It was called Unsinkable, the crown jewel of human achievement. Yet, on a silent night in April 1912, one frozen giant waited in the darkness. A single iceberg, shaped by centuries, carried by currents, stood between glory and tragedy. When steel met ice, dreams shattered, and history was rewritten forever. This is not just the story of a ship. It is the story of human pride, nature's power, and a night the world would never forget. The night of April 14th, 1912, was unusually calm, almost eerily still. The Atlantic Ocean stretched endlessly in every direction, like a giant black mirror reflecting only the distant stars. For the passengers aboard the Titanic, this calmness was a sign of reassurance, as if nature itself was blessing their voyage. They laughed, danced, and dined without a single thought that danger could be hiding somewhere in the shadows. Yet, beneath this deceptive stillness, fate had already drawn its lines. The iceberg, massive and ancient, was silently drifting in the same path as the world's grandest ship. It had broken free from the Arctic's frozen embrace months earlier, carried southward by invisible ocean currents. While the Titanic symbolized modern engineering, human ambition, and luxury, the iceberg represented nature's timeless power, silent, indifferent, and unstoppable. Both forces were on a collision course, destined to meet under the blanket of a moonless night. Titanic was not just a ship, it was humanity's pride. Its steel hull was advertised as unsinkable, a phrase repeated in newspapers and whispered with confidence by passengers. Inside, wealthy families dined on silver platters while music filled the halls, and children of immigrants dreamt of a better life in America. To many, this voyage was more than travel. It was a crossing of destiny. Yet, in their confidence, both the builders and the crew underestimated the dangers of the North Atlantic. The warnings about icebergs had already been sent by wireless telegraphs from other ships nearby. Still, the Titanic steamed ahead at nearly full speed. The captain trusted the ship's strength more than the warnings. In that very decision, arrogance met destiny. The iceberg, unseen in the darkness, waited like a ghostly predator. The passengers, tucked into luxury beds or laughing in smoking rooms, were unaware that their dreams floated dangerously close to being shattered forever. Long before Titanic left Southampton, the iceberg's story had already begun. Born in the frozen heart of Greenland, the colossal ice mass broke away from a glacier months earlier. Its size was staggering, rising nearly 100 feet above the water, while most of its body remained hidden beneath the waves. The iceberg's silent drift was guided by cold currents and the push of the wind, carrying it thousands of miles into the North Atlantic shipping lanes. It was not a villain, nor a monster. It was simply a part of nature's endless cycle, indifferent to human ambition. For centuries, icebergs had floated through these waters, unnoticed and harmless. But this one, by fate's cruel design, would cross paths with the Titanic. The meeting of these two giants, one crafted by human hands, the other carved by nature, would not be just an accident. It would become a symbol of mankind's fragility against forces beyond control. Up in the crow's nest, two lookouts, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, scanned the dark horizon. The night was unusually clear, yet the ocean offered no contrast to spot danger. The absence of the moon made the sea and sky blend into one endless black canvas. Worse still, the ship's binoculars had been misplaced, leaving the watchmen with only their eyes to rely upon. For hours, they saw nothing but stars and waves. At 11:40 p.m., Fleet suddenly spotted a massive, ghostly shape directly in the ship's path. His heart froze, an iceberg, looming like a silent mountain in the sea. The frantic ring of the warning bell shattered the silence, followed by Fleet's desperate shout to the bridge, "Iceberg, right ahead." But fate allows little time for reaction. The officers order a hard turn, the engines reversed, yet the Titanic was too vast, too fast. The iceberg was already upon them. The Titanic did not crash head-on, but brushed against the iceberg's underwater edge. The sound was not explosive, but more like a deep, tearing sigh as steel met ice. Passengers felt a strange vibration, some describing it as a gentle bump, others as a long, shuddering scrape. Few realized the seriousness, thinking it was just a minor incident. But below the waterline, the iceberg's jagged edge had ripped open the Titanic's hull in a series of fatal gashes. Compartment after compartment filled with icy water. The ship, once believed unsinkable, had been mortally wounded within seconds. On deck, passengers continued their conversations, unaware that history had just changed. In the boiler rooms, men fought desperately to control the flooding, but nature's power was merciless. The iceberg had struck silently, but its impact would echo across centuries. In the moments following the collision, confusion spread like a whisper across the ship. Many passengers, wrapped in warm blankets or still dressed in their evening clothes, peeked out into the hallways wondering what had disturbed their sleep. Crew members tried to calm them, insisting there was nothing to fear. Some passengers even returned to bed, believing the Titanic was far too powerful to be harmed by mere ice. Yet, deep within the ship, water was flooding compartments at an unstoppable rate. The engineers and stokers, knee-deep in freezing water, already knew the truth. The Titanic had been fatally wounded. Above deck, the air was filled with a strange mix of calmness and unease. A few people joked, others continued sipping drinks, and a band in the lounge played on, determined to keep spirits high. But beneath that fragile calm was a growing fear. The iceberg, unseen now in the darkness, had left a wound that no one could deny for long. As the minutes turned into hours, the reality became impossible to hide. The ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, walked through the decks with a heavy heart, quietly informing officers that the Titanic could not survive. For the forward compartments were already flooded, and the ship was designed to stay afloat only if too flooded at most. That meant she was doomed. Captain Edward Smith, who had spent his entire career commanding ships, now faced the greatest tragedy of his life. The order was given to prepare the lifeboats. But here lay another cruel twist of fate. There were not enough lifeboats for everyone aboard. The Titanic carried just over 20, enough for barely half of the passengers. The crew tried to keep order, but panic began to spread. Mothers clutched their children, husbands reassured their wives, and the wealthy mingled with the poor in a single shared fear. The iceberg had turned dreams into a nightmare no one could escape.